Good evening. Board of Appeal hearing for January 15th, 2020. We have minutes from the prior hearing that extended over a 2-day period. Those are told are in our folders. And if we could get an approval, if everyone's had a chance to look at them. That would be the Lowell Ave property with Attorney Shapiro. So our hearing dates were December 18th for the initial hearing, and then we had the second one in early January, if I recall. Oh, December 31st, I'm told, New Year's Eve. Everyone have a chance to look at them, and if so, could someone make a motion to accept if there's no corrections that are warranted? Okay, second, and all those in favor? All right, okay. Just one petition tonight, and I'm sorry?
Did you do both of them, or you just had the 18?
Yes.
So that was for both?
That motion album was for both hearings?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
So tonight's hearing is Wednesday, January 15th, 2020, here in the Marquis Center. It's the Petition 20-001 by Andy Layman of Sign Art, Inc. on behalf of Pleasant Smoke Shop for a variance of Section 3.35.9.2.2.1, Chapter 3 of the Revised Ordinances of 1991, as amended of the City of Malden, sign design control ordinances, namely the number and placement of signs per plans SGER 031660, and that's 2019 submission, and it's for the property known as 13 Irving Street, Malden, Assessor Parcel 75, Block 283, Parcel 303. And is it Mr. Layman?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. My name's Andy Layman from Sign Art.
I'm sorry, we did advertise properly? Advertise? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're here to ask for your consideration on a special permit for a sign placement on the Route 60 side of the building. The only reason that it was denied was he doesn't own the frontage on that street. It's kind of a pork chop lot for Verizon, where the probably like 10 feet of it from the Verizon store comes right in front of that location. So if he owned that property, by right, I believe he'd be able to put a sign there. So we're looking for consideration on a special permit to allow that sign.
Okay, it's for a variance, though.
What's that?
Variance,
Yes, a variance.
not special permit.
Variance.
Okay. So there's one existing, I'm sorry, were you done?
There is one, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's one existing sign on Irving,
Yes,
and you folks are looking for the second sign, which is on, I'll call it the back of the building.
Yeah.
That fronts out on Center.
yeah.
And can you describe that sign in terms of size and composition and illumination, et cetera?
It's 16 feet wide by 2 feet high, so 32 square feet. And it's just pretty much the same as the front sign. Has the little logo with the Pleasant Street Smoke Shop. Would be an internally illuminated sign cabinet mounted just above the door on that on the siding above.
One thought I did have, I walked it today, is as I'm coming down Center Street, coming from Revere, we have that parking lot, and I know it's marked, do not enter. So if you've got a sign in your building to attract the customers, I don't know, would they have a tendency maybe to turn into that that little do not enter, or even to go past your property and turn into the Verizon, when in fact they really should be going around Maine and coming down Irving, right?
They should be.
Yeah. Everyone in their right seat now?
Do you mind bringing that up? That doesn't seem to match what we have.
The drawing?
Yeah, ours is a black sign with gold letters. And this is lit.
We do the side. Oh, well, they do the side.
So is that a different size then?
It's a different depth probably than this, but looks similar, at least 16 by 2 feet.
But that wasn't the violation anyways.
I think on the, in the ordinance, you're allowed two square feet for every lineal footage, and so they should be allowed 56 square feet. The front sign is 12 square feet, and this is 32 square feet, so you'd be at, 48 square feet, so I'd still be underneath the allowable square footage.
Allowable's 52.
56, I believe.
So now, what about on the front? The front of the building, did you change that sign also? Has that been altered from?
That was permitted.
Right, but what size is that?
That was a 3x4 projecting sign.
That's a projecting sign,
Yeah,
3x4.
12 square feet, which is allowed and has been permitted.
3x4.
It's really kind of the visibility on that street, it's a one-way, and the sign isn't really that big on the front, the projecting sign, so it's really, from his standpoint, kind of a necessity to get advertising and get people to know he's even there. You know, he's been in Malden 40 years, was recently almost like forced to move, so wanted to stay in Malden. So just looking to get some more advertising there to get people to know where he is.
I walk down Exchange Street 2 times a day, so I think I could just weigh in as a pedestrian and driver in the city. You really only see the sign if you're stopped at that traffic light between Main and Exchange, or if you're walking down or driving down Exchange Street. So it's not visible from sort of the major, unless you're actually stopping at the traffic light. So I think that's maybe a little more unique than some other busy streets. So the center is definitely the busier street, which they're not facing.
All right, so quick math. All right. Quick math again. I mean, it looks like you've got, between the two signs, you get 56, you're right on the limit, right? 56 square feet.
48.
48?
So 32 and 12.
But it's 12 on two sides, right?
12 out front, 12 square feet out front, and 32, 54. 32, 42, 44.
44.
Yeah.
54.
So we're not pushing the limit. We're just trying to get something
But
out
you got
there.
two sides on the front one.
No.
Yeah, but it only goes for one.
Okay.
It's only counted as one.
All right. So that's
We weren't trying to go, super big there, just enough to get noticed,
All right. All right, Alan.
Sorry, I didn't get a chance to take a look at it today. Just so I'm clear, the entrance is on Irving Street, correct?
Yes.
There's no entrance in the
No,
back of the property?
no.
And on Irving, there's an existing sign already permitted. We're here for the sign proposed to go on the, what I'm calling the rear of the building. I don't see any public participation. I don't know if the gentleman wants to speak. Oh, I know, I met him today. Yep. Hearing nothing else, anyone want to make a motion?
I make a motion that the permit or the variance be allowed. And I think based on the fact that I still think that this ordinance is written not well, it does give them permission to have 2 signs per tenant. They're not going over the square footage allowed, and they wouldn't even be here except for the fact of that 5 feet or 6 feet of land.
Okay, would there be a second?
I'll second it. I agree with all those points.
Okay.
I don't think that land is really buildable, and I'm sure it's been, just there as an eyesore between the back of this building, which is the front of Center Street, so.
That land is owned by a neighboring, a budding lot.
Right, it's
Not the subject.
basically
Okay.
an unusable little foot to the existing Verizon lot.
They, just so you know, this owner has spoken with Verizon, and Verizon's okay with it, and they're even going to take care of it for them, keep it clean and stuff, so that little portion of land.
You didn't have anything from Verizon to give to
No,
us, did you?
no.
That's always advisable.
No.
All right, I think we had a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Gentlemen? Okay, all set, granted by a vote of 5-0, I believe.
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
All right. So if we could try to do something on the rules and regs, which I know we keep putting off, and it's so well overdue. Kathy worked on it. And when we started, I had done a project when we moved from the city hall, and I came up with stuff from the 60s and 70s. And so we put everything together and then tried to create a new working document. And again, Kathy did that and did a good job and tried to introduce in the technology that we now use and wipe out the old language from the 60s and 70s. And then Mr. King suggested he had some additional information from a neighboring city, which we always welcome to see how other folks do it. And so we have a proposed rough draft with us tonight, I think. Is that right? Okay, can we all make sure we're looking at the same thing? Would that be it there?
There are 2 sets, okay? There are ones that were basically previous.
Can I give you some power there?
You wish?
There you go.
Okay. Of plans. One was our original plans from years ago that need to be modified a little bit. And then we have another set of plans that we would like to incorporate into our new rules and procedures, just due to the fact that we need some updating to go by. So we've tried to do that. A few of the things here that you see highlighted are questionable, and some of the wordings will need to be changed. And that's what our main goal is today.
And so are we working off of the document that you did the highlighting?
For the most part, yes.
Okay.
And then we'll incorporate both together to see who likes what the best wording.
Is there a difference between the yellow and the blue?
The blue is in the back, yes. So the blue line through the on 2.1.2 is there because I need to check that law with that open to make sure that that is the correct chapter and section. So when in doubt, I put a different color. And some other things.
All right, so I'm looking at page 1. If we could just, everyone take a moment, read through it. If there's anyone who wants to make suggestions or changes.
Right.
And then we'll try to move through. It's about a 10-page document. And I know there's one or two things that I have to still check on, so I don't see us voting something tonight, but if we could get through it and maybe try to vote it next month, that'd be great. So,
No cases yet next month.
and Kathy's telling me at the moment we don't have any cases for next month, so then we'd be back here in March, and we would try to do it at that time. But again, given that we only had one and we got some time, maybe if we could try to get through this tonight, understanding that there may still be some changes down the road.
So I'm sorry, the yellow stuff that you think that we still have to look into?
Yes. There was some wording that's a little different, like in the bigger section here. Sometimes there's a mention of the clerk, and sometimes there is mention of the administrative secretary. And here we do not vote in a chair or a clerk; they're just assigned. So some of that wording will have to be changed. It'll have to be the whichever wording you choose to like better.
Okay.
Some of those are facts that we need to check further. There are things like the application deadline. When you get to that, that's in the blue. 3 weeks before the meeting is not enough time to get into the paper.
Can we do one page at a time, though?
We can, yeah.
Because
We won't
I'm
take
just
one by
finishing
one.
page one, and I'm going to ask everyone if they're all set with
Okay.
every page so that we
Okay.
have some continuity. I'm just looking at the very last paragraph. The clerk shall be a regular member of the board.
Okay.
In general absence of the zoning board administrator. That's where we have,
I think
it suggests it's two different positions, the clerk and the administrative secretary, when in fact it's you and it's one person.
it's one person.
Right?
But I don't vote, and I don't.
Right.
So that would have to be a different change, definitely.
Supervise all the clerical work. Including, but you do all those other things for sure. Keeping agenda minutes, proceedings combined. Okay. And if you're absent, I appoint someone. All right, so I'm done with page one. Bill?
Yeah, on page one, just the members and officers. It says the zoning board of appeals shall consist of 5 regular and 2 associate members. By virtue of your position in the fire department representation.
Say that again?
But by virtue of your opposition, right, as the assessor, am I correct? That
By virtue
you are the
of-
chair of the board of appeals. I'm just-
No.
I think that's by ordinance.
There's
Let me
the-
find it for you.
There's the city charter that trumps this, and the city charter stipulates that the assessor and the fire chief or his designee are to be members of the board. it in no way talks about either of those people having to be the chair.
Okay.
What I've been told is because the assessor is here full-time and deals with property, it's been felt over the years that it made sense for that individual to chair, just like tonight that I,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I understand that part.
Okay.
Clearly, I'm just wondering if this is that first sentence, if I'm not mistaken, is a little more vague than the charter. Are we contradicting the charter here, just describing the way the board is established?
These, I think, are our own rules. They're not the mayor and the city council appoints members. So these are our internal rules. They're not, that's up to the mayor.
but that language about the membership of appointees, that's in the city charter.
Yeah, but what I'm saying though, these are our internal procedures.
Yeah.
They're not, that's on an internal procedure.
Okay.
What he's referring
So you don't
to.
see a
No, I
conflict?
understand. Well, okay, even having said that, then is that paragraph necessary in our rules? Is it already provided for in the charter? The makeup of the body and
Right.
how we arrive.
As I read that paragraph, everything that's discussed in there is in fact discussed in the charter. It then goes on to say the remaining members. Well, no, I'm sorry. It has some more specific language that one member has to come from the builder/architect and one member from the legal profession. And then the fifth member, not to say John is a regular Joe, but the fifth member is a regular individual, doesn't need to have any certain designations. And then it references two associate members with no further description of them.
So I guess my question is that paragraph necessary? Where the makeup of the board is provided for in the charter?
I think I'd probably want to go back and read the charter just one more time to make sure that I'm not.
It's just a question.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll make that blue. Can we get past page 1?
Only one thing about that. I think we're the Board of Appeal, not Board of Appeals.
Yep.
Okay.
I think it's in the charter. Boston is also a Board of Appeal, not appeals. So you might want to take the S out.
Yep. And that's right in the title up top, right? You're talking? Or anywhere throughout, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, to move on to page 2. Associate members. And I've asked our 2 members to, amongst themselves, between themselves, to rotate, so to speak, if the demand is there for an evening and they're both going to participate, to just kind of alternate it back and forth. Administrative secretary.
I hate to go back to page 1 again.
Oh, just.
Just in the yellow section about for all other business or I mean, that doesn't include the public hearings. I mean, should we make, is there something we should do about that? I mean, it says they can all vote. I mean, and they don't all vote at the same time, 7 people.
No, it doesn't address that at all. You're right. But, again, there is language in the charter about that it calls for a vote of 5 members. 4 can be a quorum, Is that yours or mine?
Child deduction.
What is it?
Yeah. Child deduction.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Charlotte Mojo in Springfield at 1:26 today.
Yeah, no, do you know if it's further in here? It talks about voting? The issue John just raised.
That's why this is lit up, to discuss that.
Oh, okay, I thought. Because it's not addressed in there.
Because, I mean, like in this case, where it's a business meeting and if we're voting on minutes, I mean, that's part of our business and not the public hearing part.
And we absolutely should have something in there about
Somewhere.
four votes are still needed when a quorum, because that came up a lot over the years.
Yeah.
when we were lacking on a fifth member.
That's also in the zoning ordinance.
And that the
too.
petitioner gets the option of holding off to the following month. So, yeah, no, I don't see a reason to remove it.
Because further down, you do mention, whether conducted during a public hearing or a public meeting, so it's being something specific, but that's not a business meeting. Those aren't, in a sense, strictly business meetings. I think that's a different category, public meeting. They are the business of the appeals board.
But don't you think we should still have a majority vote if there's something that,
yeah, but we got to have,
whether it's the meeting or the hearing?
who is voting? Not all members vote on public meetings.
Right, so I would think it would still be the majority of the board, and not if the 5 members are here to vote.
But if 7 here, 7 don't vote.
That would be my take on it, yeah. That it would be the 5 members. That's what we do
Right.
normally.
But it says.
It's not specifically laid out there?
It's specifically laid out, it says all members, regular and associate, so it's specifically.
Oh, just the opposite. Okay.
The first highlight.
And it's an odd number, so we can still have a majority with 7 rather than 5.
No, but they don't vote on.
Well, no.
That's what we have been doing,
Right.
I haven't been voting.
Right.
Right.
Minutes and things.
And that's in the charter. They say that the regular members vote on appeals.
On the appeals.
Yeah. Unless they're not, can't or blah, blah, blah. And then
Is it a question, or are you saying that's what it says?
that's what it says. We don't vote, 7 people don't vote.
Right.
5 people vote.
On an appeal.
Let's just
On an-
delete that sentence that says.
All.
But all 7 can vote on this
We have to go over it on the quorum.
and on
It
the minutes
says
and on.
so.
Is that page 2?
That's page
A
2.
Christmas party.
Let's go into page 2 because it kind of comes up again about a quorum and number of votes.
I think we should delete this section about the clerk, because it seems like Kathy is covered in administrative secretary. So why have 2 sections if it's one person?
Right in person, right.
1.2.1 seems to cover it.
So your appropriate title should be clerk to the board?
No, administrative secretary, because this suggests that the clerk votes. The clerk is one of the 5.
Or she wants to get a helper in the next budget.
There you go. In some towns, they're called administrative secretaries. On our list, my list, it's titled as clerk.
What, in the budget?
Yeah, in the budget and on that, the list that,
Organizational chart or something.
yeah.
So is our language in here contradictory
Well,
to that?
this came from a town, so I don't know if this
So
here.
maybe we have to take out the other one.
Like the-
No, this is saying the board has an official clerk. One of the 5 of us is a clerk who coordinates with Kathy. I don't think. we
One
do
of
that.
the 5, we
Yeah,
don't,
we
right.
don't do that. The
One of-
clerk shall be a regular
not
member
vote.
who will be
No, no,
absent
right.
to the matter.
She's saying that says one of the 5 voting members.
And
Communicates
then
with
you'd
you.
never have
Okay.
you would never get 5 members.
Chair
One of them had to be the clerk.
The chair does come in.
All it's saying is that one of us is really supposed to be handling the paperwork with Kathy. So if someone wants to take that as a role, we could designate someone. That's really that's at least how I'm reading it. We have the admin secretary who's a municipal employee, and then the chair, the regular clerk, who's just a member of the board. That's common for most boards, have a designated.
Okay.
The planning board doesn't.
But isn't it
have
more
that.
in the absence, like if Kathy, right, so it's not a regular job, it would be
No.
only if Kathy were
If I was
absent.
here.
I thought it said somewhere that if you weren't here, I would appoint someone.
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's
Yeah.
it.
All right? All right, how about 1-3, quorum? Five regular meetings. In case the absence of board shall designate an associate to sit. The chairman also does the. Yes, alternative.
So I think right above the highlighted part, we should take out special permit, since we don't do special permits.
Right.
And then it says appeal as a party agrees. I think that means it really refers
The
to
administrative.
administrative appeal. So I think it should be a variance or administrative.
Change it to administrative appeal.
So what section are you on? This is right here.
Page 2, section 1-3. Above that, is it saying that the chair designates an associate member to sit as alternatives? Our alternatives participate in every hearing. They don't vote unless there's a need for a fifth member, or in the case of 4. But is that saying that with respect to the associate members in their role in a case, the chair may designate other associate members to sit? Oh, no, I guess that just means if our 2 members aren't enrolled here and we need another one, they'd have to be approved all through the city council. Chair may also 4 members shall constitute a quorum for the purposes of opening and continuing a public hearing. Same place, 1-3, when it talks about the 4 sitting members that constitutes a quorum, doesn't specifically say that all the votes are needed for the applicant. But that's addressed elsewhere. I believe that 4 votes are needed with the 5-member board. Okay. I just thought it might have reiterated it, but it doesn't. And 3 members can constitute a quorum when it's administrative business, like we're doing right now. Malden rule is if someone misses a hearing and the hearing is continued and we need the participation of that individual, they have to make themselves aware of the hearing they didn't attend, and in this day and age it's available online, so that makes it a lot easier. But they have to attest that they know the scope of what took place in that first hearing for them to then participate in the continued one. What's the red mark for?
I missed it when I was changing it to yellow.
Oh, okay. All right, everyone okay on page 2?
Is the Malden rule new? Have we always had that?
That's not us. That's
That's a state.
That's state, yeah.
No, I know this. I think that we have to adopt it for each town. So I'm saying, has Malden adopted it?
I don't know, but by it being in here, I would suggest that that's going to say that we're adopting it when we vote these in.
Yeah.
It's in the proposed rules in front of us
Yeah,
tonight.
I'm just wondering. I don't know if we can.
Who has to adopt
I think
it?
the city council might have to be.
Oh.
I'm just wondering if they've approved it for us. I don't know.
Okay.
Or if even if they have.
I guess we got to check that.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, Kathy had already noted that. I thought we had the autonomy to do that, but okay. Everyone okay? So I'm at the last sentence there to page 2 about resignation. If resigns from the board, resignation right chair, yep, and a copy provided to the clerk, zoning board. Zoning board administrative secretary / clerk. We're going to get one title for you?
one or 2, you pick it.
I mean, we could,
Got to get one title.
or we could combine those 2 sections to some extent. About the duties of, because she does everything.
Right.
We just come here and,
How do you say that eloquently?
how would we?
You.
I mean, we just have to take, we could just do you want clerk, right? Because that's what the city does.
I don't know if there's a distinction of,
This paperwork says the clerk is a voting member.
Oh,
well,
that's
Yeah,
this-
I mean, we can combine the two things and get rid, I mean, if we're not gonna really nominate a clerk for one of our
Right.
members. I mean, either we get rid of clerk or we get rid of administrative secretary and combine the
well,
duties.
does one of those carry the voting that you just mentioned, Emily?
Yes.
'Cause
this
obviously-
is the clerk
Consider your
votes
town,
and
they
the
do.
administrative secretary doesn't.
The clerk shall be a regular member, that's
Yes.
what this says. So, I mean,
We got to get away from that.
we could
Okay.
take that out.
Yeah.
I mean,
take
if we
it
don't
out,
wanna
administrative.
have a
And then
separate
There's no,
clerk.
Or like Adam said, that we just designate one of us as the backup Kathy, basically. And that person is now called the clerk, would be called the clerk. Or we can just strike it.
Well, I think that the board's really supposed to be running the show with the help of the administration. So I think that's why there's someone designated as a clerk, is that they're supposed to kind of take the responsibility for that. I'm fine leaving it in. I think it's really kind of a moot point. We have had that help. And, I don't think there's ever going to be really a conflict.
Okay. Resignation of the chair. Oh, the chair can resign from office and acting chair. So if I was to resign, or if Kathy was, we were to meet as a board and appoint someone within 10 days.
does that have to go by city council?
For the chair, because that would have to be a board member, but I don't think for the clerk, if we're calling that person the clerk. As a matter of fact, I don't even think the assessor/fire position actually go through an appointment through the city council. I think because of the charter language, it's there. Annual meeting. Annual meeting.
Whatever happens. So we
Right.
can start one or not, or we can stay.
Yeah, we can leave that. Want to leave that in there, and the beginning, or maybe we'll do it with the beginning of the new fiscal year. Well, that's fine. The third Wednesday. This is the thing that hasn't been done the last couple of years that we're trying to do tonight. We can just leave that in there unless anyone has any suggestion. But once a year, I guess we're supposed to meet here in an administrative way and, relook at these rules in case some warrant changes, and maybe that's when some voting is done for changes to membership. David?
I still had a question about the clerk. Are we coming back to that later, or is that settled? So the clerk is a member of the board who only acts in the capacity only if the administrative secretary is not present, correct?
No, it actually supervises the administrative secretary. So it's really meant to be just a liaison, I think, from the board
Supervisor.
to the admin secretary. I don't think we really need it because I think,
Right.
again, you serve that purpose.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think it's fine to leave it just as an official title, but
And when a new attorneys request documents, the clerk will get the
yeah.
subpoena.
Right. All the court cases we have, that falls to Kathy and myself to dig out all the files and put together the records.
Let's see, you can slough it off on somebody else. Appoint the clerk.
Yeah.
Good point,
I have a question.
good point.
Yeah.
I know it's already in yellow, 1.4.2.
Yeah.
The resignation part.
Yeah.
If the chair or clerk resigns from office, an acting chair or acting clerk may be appointed by the chair.
Well, if the chair
the
resigns,
chair.
so that means that you have a conscientious chair who would make that effort before he or she went out the door, I guess. If the chair resigns, the chair can't then appoint someone.
Yeah.
Unless, I won't be here next month, and I think Emily should be the chair. So, yeah, no.
Is that why it's already in yellow? I wasn't sure.
Yes, that's why it's already.
Oh, okay. All right.
She's a step ahead of us. All right. So annual meeting, we're going to leave it in there. Once a year, we should have this meeting and go through this. painstaking process again. We're all the way to Article 2. Procedures, schedules, meetings, and public hearings of the board shall be the third Wednesday of each month. You made that change, huh? We used to be on the Thursdays. That's what happened. We changed when they moved us here. Yeah, I was told, so I don't make that decision. We used to be, I think we were Thursday nights when we were over there, weren't we? Yeah.
It's a big
I don't
deal
know.
for 'em.
I don't know what.
Sorry
I haven't
today.
heard.
This is the auditorium where we'll meet.
You know, they have to
Half
juggle
chambers.
planning board, city council, school committee. So there's, some logistics involved. But for now, our meetings are 6:30 on Wednesday, Malden Government Center. The dates, special meetings as we had a month ago for the Lowell Street property. Notices, the meeting shall be posted. This is a change. The notices are on the city website, and we used to post them in the lobby. We don't anymore, correct? They're just on the city's website. Date, time, has to be 48 hours prior to us meeting, and that excludes weekends and holidays. Agendas for the board hearing shall be posted, and we do a butters list. I think it's 300 feet from the Petition property, and there is a mailing done to those individuals. I have to check. There's something that was passed in the city for 500 feet. I don't know if that pertains to us or if that was planning board. There was some debate about that recently.
Okay, I'll check.
So we got to check if we have to go to 500 feet. That's our a butters list that we do the mailings to tell the public about these hearings. And then the public hearing meeting, open to the public, while open to the public, are not public hearings. Application, variance, appeals, comprehensive. Can we strike, it would be, I'm in the last paragraph, page 3, it would be variance and appeals. We don't do comprehensive permits. When we don't want to, that's a 40B.
Aren't we going to be responsible for 40B?
We are, if one ever comes our way.
I didn't even think about a 40B. I guess I would. Yeah, maybe we.
That would be.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, so it would have to stay in, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I
A
don't-
40B,
Yeah,
yeah.
special permit would go. Yeah.
Right, so I guess, yeah, right.
I'll keep it.
Okay. As described below, and no nuance, are we? Okay. Except we were deleting out, it said special permit, I thought, somewhere.
It'd be a previous section.
That was the previous?
But I think a comprehensive batch should stay in there.
Right, because we do, we have a 40B, that is us. Okay, so I'm into page 4, and I welcome that first third, because that means Kathy's looking at it further.
I am.
Okay. So I'm going to go down to 2-1-5. The affirmative vote of, okay, 2-1-6, the affirmative vote of 4 sitting members of the board shall be necessary for approval of all plans, signs, and all other items required by conditions attached to existing permits. Should we state the obvious for that?
Sorry, which one is this again?
2-1-6, about saying how 4 members are needed for approval of plans, signs, and all other items. I know it's the obvious, but shouldn't it state for the granting of a variance in there?
I think it seems like with what we dealt with a couple of weeks ago, it should also say the affirmative vote shall be necessary for approval or denial of blah, blah, blah. Because that's why we had to reconvene, because we.
2 votes can be, 2 votes is a denial. If you need 4,
But we all had to get back together on New Year's Eve because it was a motion to approve that 4 people.
if that was in
against.
the language of the motion, I think that threw us off there. In terms of a vote,
Yeah.
approval, 4 votes are needed. So if it's a denial, if it's a 3 grant and 2 deny, the petition it's denied.
We would be deadlocked if we required 4. It was 3-2 split. We would be deadlocked because you're saying you need 4 to deny it or 4 to approve it.
No, I'm saying you need, I'm confusing myself. No, never mind.
Okay.
I think 2-1-6, I think that's kind of repetitive, right? Because don't we need 4 votes to really do anything?
Right, but I'm shocked that it doesn't say in there for the main function of what we do, which is to act on a variance.
I'm wondering if that's saying something in addition to granting the relief. I think it's saying that like the conditions, I think that's what it's getting at.
Talks about plans and signs and
Other items.
all these other items.
So when we attach if we attach a condition to a variance, I think it's saying we need at least 4 votes.
Okay.
It just seems redundant to me. We need 4
If-
votes anyway.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so we good with leaving that like it is?
yeah.
And you don't think we need to add for the,
No, I think all that's saying is that let's say we agree on a variance, 4 people agree on a variance, but then we want to attach a condition to it. I think what it's saying is you also need 4 votes.
oh, okay, if it's in addition to.
So I think it's a little redundant, but I think it's fine.
No one else? Okay. All public hearings are open. No person shall be excluded. By the chair to be a hindrance to the working of the board. Okay. Public notice. Public hearings shall be published twice, each of 2 successive weeks, in a newspaper of general circulation in the city of Malden. Notice of public hearing shall be filed with the city clerk.
They all are.
That's us putting it online, correct?
We actually take it in and we stamp it in with the city clerk. And then it's
goes
online
on.
also.
Yeah,
But
okay.
both are done.
But the stamping, in order to start the clock running,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The city clerk.
the city clerk. And that's something we fine-tuned a few months ago because they weren't always coming. And we believe the reason for that is prior to technology in the assessor's office, I can tell you, young ladies would be on the floor putting maps together with rulers and measuring 60 feet, 100 feet. So it was a real arduous task to do the abutters list. Now it's click, click, click. So they were sending the applications up to the assessors quickly to get that process started. But really, the application is supposed to go to the city clerk so it can get stamped, which starts the meter running on constructive notice for whatever it is, 75 days that we have to hear it up. All right. Notice of public hearing. Okay, opening of public hearing extension in accordance with. I'm on page 4, the very last section. Is it 65 days? In accordance with, public hearing shall be held within 65 days? Is that what you were dealing with Mr. Shapiro last week? We were coming up against that? Okay. Required time limits for opening public hearing may be extended by written agreement between, okay. Majority vote of the board shall be required to grant an extension, a copy of such extension, okay. Page 5, everyone. Site visits. Again, before I even read it, the reality is that all you folks work. So I certainly make sure, and Bill's in town, and Bill does his best. He's with me just about all the time. And, so not everyone can always make every site visit. And some are more difficult and easier. If it's inside of the property, that's a little more difficult. You can't break a door down. If it's an exterior thing like tonight's hearing, you can kind of go by and do the viewing on your own. But what does it say? Take a view of the property. That first sentence, when it's determined by the chair, that's a standing, that's the goal, to go ahead and try to approach it that you go. But we understand reality that not everyone can always go. So I don't have to determine that you need to go for this one. It's just a standing order that we try to all go, but we know that not everyone can always go.
I can remember too, at one of those citizen planning seminars,
Yeah.
they said that you have to be very careful about having a majority of members.
Because it could constitute an open meeting.
Yeah.
Right. But if we do, we're really not to discuss things. We just do our observation. I can remember that happened at Woodland. Down by 99, there was 3 of us, and we started talking, and then we said, well, wait, we can't talk. So we just won't real.
Bill's saying that he pointed out it does say the open meeting law.
Oh, does it? It goes on to say that?
It says no, it says it does not apply.
Oh.
But you're in our meeting.
But I don't know if it does.
It does.
Anytime, I think the open meeting law says anytime a board is, a majority of the board is present discussing.
Discuss. There's the key word.
Right.
Can't.
We don't
You can't
discuss.
just say it doesn't apply. It does apply.
Well, I didn't finish reading it, so I want to read it.
Should say apply.
Yeah, that's the other thing. The general public going to a site visit. Adam, you think the language in there is okay? I mean, regardless of what we change, if anything, I think we should all.
Oh yeah, so I'm reading, this is from the citizen planning thing. It says that on-site inspection is not a meeting as long as the parties do not deliberate.
Discuss.
Yeah.
So that's,
So
You limit your conversation,
yeah,
if any.
you all have to have
well, I think that should come out because I think it always applies. If we all start deliberating, that wouldn't be true. So I think that should just come out in general.
just
I would just say,
All right,
let's
so
take out.
I'll take it from the start.
From where to where, Adam?
I would
open-
say the old,
oh.
I would strike the open meeting law does not apply to site visits and then just strike that, just start the applicant or property owner may deny access. Because I don't think it's fair to say.
To members of the public,
It
right.
does if you start deliberating.
Okay.
Perfect, okay.
And more important, we all know that if we find ourselves in that situation, I mean, Bill and I talk a little bit about, what's around, but I don't feel like it's deliberation. We're trying to just familiarize ourselves with, what's there. All right, I'm moving on to whatever the next thing is, representation and absence applicant. I don't know if it's going to be addressed somewhere else. I would think it would have already, given they were just talking about site visits. But, when I had my transition into this seat, I was told that our standard notice to the applicant, the requirements about advertising, whatnot, is that they or someone needs to be present on the day of the hearing between 10 and 1 for our site visit. And I was also told, because it has happened, that we arrive and there's no one there. And I have been told that that is grounds for us to deny based on that alone. This 2.6 talks about no one appearing here at the podium in the night of the hearing. I'm just raising this other point that I've run into over the years. And given that we were just talking about the site visit, that's where it's pertinent to. So
It would make sense then to say that a property owner can deny access to the board, right?
are you in the 2.6 section?
I think she's 225.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's the.
I mean, usually the public's not there because it's not a public meeting and we don't have to advertise.
Yeah, but this is talking about whether the public has a right to view.
I don't think the public has a
No.
right to do it. That would be my guess.
No, because it's not, I mean, that's, the variance is between them and,
Okay.
the person appealing, and not so much the public can all come in because it's a public meeting, talk about it, but they don't necessarily have a right to go on private property. I mean, technically, I suppose we don't either, but, I mean.
Right, they can deny the building inspector to view their property.
Right, and that's what Catherine was just talking about,
They can deny
denying
access,
us.
yeah.
And then we in turn can
But
deny.
we can say that if, you know, I think we'd have to talk about how we could craft, the words that it's necessary, if they feel a site visit is necessary and they do, then there's no one present for it, that the matter can be denied. I don't know if we can do
So
that.
you're adding that whether there's the necessity for someone to be present, like today, we didn't need anyone there to do the exterior of the building, But I know I've run into it a couple of times that.
But it says, I think, where did I read, would appeal may take a view of any properties that come before it under application for variance appeals company. When it is determined by the chair or by the majority, that a site visit is needed. So if we say it's needed and they deny it, I mean, somewhere in there, can we then put something after that sentence, or the denial of access?
Yeah, because I
Well-
actually sent them a letter that states the board will be there to
Right, between
visit
10
your
and 1 on the
property.
day of the hearing.
Yeah.
Right.
But then that gives you the right to say that if no one's there,
It's cor-
according to the rules.
We can deny the applicant. That's what I'm.
Until,
Remember, we have to make findings, so if we can't see the property, we can't make a finding.
Right.
So I almost think it's kind of implicit in our role. If we can't see it, we don't have anything before us.
so I think we should put something in there so that when she sends it out, section 225 of the regulations state that.
It
Must
should
be
be amplified in the letter that we send out after it says
And it's in here that we vote.
that it's in our rules.
It's in our rule.
Right.
We've got to be able, if it's determined that we have to see it, because it says in there that we don't have to visit all of them, but if you, the chairman, or the majority of us decide, we've got to look at it.
Right. If it's an inside the building issue, then we got to get in.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Contrary to what we had tonight, where
So we need to craft another sentence.
we had one on Avon Street 2 years ago when he didn't let us in, and then he showed up, and we said, we need to get in. And then, it was on our agenda for another night.
It's too fancy.
It made more work for us. He didn't cooperate in the beginning, and then when he realized he wasn't getting the permit.
But again, a lot of this stuff is written for the worst case, that one person out of.
And for the appeal in court.
Yeah. Well, gee, it says it. That's a letter. It says here in our minutes, our rules and regulations. So I think we should probably add something about that.
Adam, you looking at something that might be pertinent?
No,
No? Okay.
I was listening, don't worry.
Yeah. All right, so we were in, where are we, 2-26? It needs some work?
What, 226?
That talks about the applicant being present here tonight to present.
Yeah, that's okay.
We're not even addressing the site visit, that's,
No, that's fair.
right.
Work is
That's what I would like to.
on the site visit.
Get something in the rules, because we certainly say it in the letter that we sent to them.
We do. I was going to get a copy of a letter if you wanted.
I pretty much know what it says. Someone's to be present between 10 and 1.
That's what it says.
Right. I'd like to put something in the rules, though, that
Must be present.
Access is denied.
for those cases where, like John said, for when it's pertinent, when we need to get in. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it for a case like tonight. I didn't need to get in. All right, we're going to play with that. I'm going to move on to the public hearing procedure. The chair will open the meeting, explain the procedure of the board, call on the clerk, then to read the notice of public hearing. I read that tonight, right? Okay, all hearings will generally proceed in the following manner. Present of evidence by the applicant. The board. This is something that I should probably discuss, because I've handled different meetings at different times, and I've been told by different people different things. So what I'm getting at, if you look at 2-27, the applicant presents. I ask if board members have any questions or comments. We usually do. We finish that process. Sometimes we call up our zoning enforcement administrator for some help in interpretation. And the issue I have is that once it's open to the public, when the public is done and the opposition has gone off the rails with all kinds of things that aren't pertinent, I feel like the petitioner should have the opportunity to speak again. And I've been told, well, if that's the case, then you've got to reopen it to the public. So I've had different take on that. So what does it say here? Presentation by the applicant. The board poses questions. You've been doing a good job at that. Following the applicant's presentation, comments and questions from the public. Well, that don't make sense. A was presentation by the applicant. B was the board poses questions. C then says following the applicant's presentation. That happened in A. Comments and questions from the public will be solicited. The applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to the public. That's in our rules. Well, they're in these proposed rules. So that's kind of what I've done with, some of the more controversial cases when, folks get up and, again, they're all over the place. And I feel like the other side should have an opportunity to address some of the things that have been raised. All right, following all the questions and comments from the public and the board, the applicant will be given opportunity to make a final statement. Okay, that's consistent with what I think is appropriate. The board will determine whether it wishes to conduct a view of the premises. Holy moly, that's F? I thought we did that in the morning. I think I would strike F. Well, yeah, we're doing the view of the premises. Oh, if it has not been, so I guess I should read on before I open my mouth. That's saying if we have all that testimony and a board member is like, I really think I need to see that. Like happened, Bill and I went and followed up down on Medford Street. Remember we went back? Because for whatever reason we didn't get in when we went initially. Right? Wasn't that what happened?
Happened on Highland
Huh?
Ave. Happened on Highland Ave.
The lawyer didn't tell
Highland
the
Ave,
owner or
corner
something.
of Oakland. Yeah, right? Yeah. And I think I remember Adam saying that it really warrants getting in. We had been in, but I think we hadn't focused I'm kind of forget now, but I know we went back
No,
a
I don't
second
think we
time.
went, you didn't go inside. It was the sprinkler one, right?
Yeah, the sprinkler one.
Where,
Oh, it's two-family.
yeah,
Yeah.
they were supposed to add sprinklers in to get
That's right.
family, and you guys
From a,
hadn't been
from a
inside.
decision a number of years ago, and then we were
I
faced
think
with
you only
it.
saw the outside because the lawyer
Right.
didn't tell the
And-
client.
Then we pushed it back a month and you guys went and saw it.
Yeah.
next month.
And Bill said that he didn't see where a sprinkler was be warranted today and nor back then. All right, the board will determine whether to continue the hearing or to close. If the board closes the public hearing, it may then either proceed directly to deliberate the matter or schedule deliberation to be held in the future.
Can we go back to the letter to B?
Yeah, board may
It says
pose
the board may
questions.
pose questions to the applicant either before or during his or her presentation. That seems specific. Does that mean not after? We have to know when the presentation's over. Does that conclude
Well, if
our
you
opportunity to make questions, to ask questions?
if you notice tonight, I didn't want to jump in, but it was quick and short, and I said to the gentleman, "Are you done?" You know, so I think it's just saying the board may pose. I find it interesting that it says it may pose questions before. I think he presents before we open our mouth, right?
A lot of the questions could come after his presentation.
Well, we have follow-up back and forth, right, but
But it doesn't say-
initially,
Reading B, it almost indicates that when he's done, we can't ask questions.
Right, it's done.
Yeah, it does.
That's what
It
it
should
says.
say after or during, not before or during.
Well, sometimes
don't
before
we just
you
say-
say, can you,
Before, after, during, whenever we want.
sometimes we don't know exactly the whole process that went on between the building inspector, so we asked
so we
them
want it to be
I think before is
open.
fine, yeah.
We want it to be open and vague so that, because there's different circumstances.
The board may pose questions to the applicant.
Period.
Why don't we just strike everything after applicant? The board
Right.
may pose questions to the applicant.
Period.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's why we're here.
True.
What was that, B?
B.
All right. Did we get to G? The board will determine whether it wishes to. Oh, okay. So by the word deliberate, is that deliberate precedes making a motion? Correct? The end of G, the second clause, the second part of G. The board closes the hearing. It may then either proceed directly to deliberate, talk amongst themselves, the matter, or schedule a deliberation to be held at a future date.
All deliberations may be held only during public meeting. That's in the next section.
Oh,
So it's not amongst other stuff.
all right. So is G all right?
Nothing, mumbling.
Well, I think that's in there in case we decide we have to
To a continuance?
continuance and go to the
Yeah.
premises.
Yeah, if we're going to delay it for.
It's not the meeting hasn't ended in the sense, or the deliberations haven't ended at the first meeting.
Or we could just decide to come back and, think about it and come back.
By making a motion to that effect.
Yeah, I mean, we usually make our decisions at night, but we're not required to.
Okay? 2-8.
So say in that case, someone has a plan and we're not super happy, we might want them to update the plan for our records and say, if you're willing to do this, we would all vote yes, but you have to actually change your plan and come back or something.
We may all vote yes.
I think we would just continue the meeting. They could
Just
still
continue.
present evidence. It's still open.
We wouldn't say like, if you deleted this part of the addition and we need an updated plan, you have to come back with it.
Yeah, I mean,
Not,
that's something that we.
So it would be a continued hearing.
Yeah, so that then they wouldn't have to re-advertise and wouldn't have to do.
Because it's a continuation of the hearing.
Yeah. So I think that's what.
So the language as is acceptable? Right? All right, I'm moving on to 8 here. Deliberation of the shall be held only during a public meeting. Yep, we know that. Consideration of an application shall be based on the findings. So I'm at the top of page 6 and find the very last clause to be odd, that you would have language that the application didn't meet the requirements of the zoning bylaw. That's why they came in front of us tonight, is because they don't meet the bylaw.
Well, in somebody's opinion, but not ours. The building commissioner has said, you don't meet zoning.
Yeah.
And they come and say he's wrong, his decision is
Right.
wrong.
Okay. All right. Voting, the record shall show the vote of each sitting board member upon each question. Each question, or if failing to vote, indicating such fact. A concurring vote of 4 sitting board members shall be required to grant special permits. You cross that out. 2-9, not special permits, variances and appeals for a decision of the intent. Sitting members shall be regular members of the board or associate members designated to sit by the chair, as set forth in Article 1, Section 3. So there it just says that a vote of 4 is necessary. It doesn't talk about whether there's a quorum of 5 or 4. But back to what Emily said. Emily mentioned it's saying you need 4 votes for it to pass 2-9. So if there's 5 people and it was 3-2.
But this makes it seem like we wouldn't have had to come back together after last month, because there was a concurring vote of 4 members that the decision was no. So
The decision was definitely no. It was 4-1 no. And we came back
then why did we have to vote
because
again?
No one made the motion to vote no.
the
Someone made a motion.
motion wasn't properly made.
I think, didn't someone make a motion, but no one seconded it, so we didn't have a motion?
Yeah. So the language in the motion wasn't appropriate, wasn't accurate.
So even though,
So we hadn't taken action. Legally, we hadn't taken action because the motion
Okay.
by Adam, I think, didn't get a second.
no, it was me, mine didn't get.
Okay.
But, okay.
So we hadn't legally taken a vote. You made a motion and no one seconded it. And I jumped into, I'm sorry, you lost by a vote of 4-1, when in fact a new motion should have been made by one of the dissenting members to say they were denying, is my understanding. Yeah. Okay? So that wasn't a 3-2, 4-1 issue. It was that we didn't have the proper language in the motion.
Yeah. But it's sort of, okay, I'll just let it go, but it seems like there was concurrence on the issue, that the decision was a no. Whatever.
But the crafting of the motion wasn't done properly. 210, the written decision, the board deliberates. Sitting member will generally be assigned to prepare a draft of the written decision. Adam has been kind enough to take that role. The board's decision shall state the findings of facts. I noticed that I know once we do things, we copy over and everything. I think in the past I used to see that all statutory notices have been saying that they've been properly advertised at the sort of the beginning of the decision.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of fell off, I think. And I know if you copy over, it's not there, you don't think to.
That last sentence is not really how we do things, right?
Where are we?
Written decision, the last sentence.
210?
that-
During the board's deliberation, a sitting member will generally be assigned to prepare a draft of the written. That's correct. As I just said, Adam has been kind enough to handle that role with his legal background. We thought it was...
After the fact. This says during deliberation. writing it, but he writes them afterwards.
Yes, during the,
No,
I think what she's
Is that
getting
what you're
at,
objecting to?
we email back and forth with comments not in a public hearing.
yeah, we really shouldn't be doing that. That really, I know Boston for their decisions get voted on at the subsequent meeting. So I
Oh.
prepare a draft. I think it's fine to send out.
but then you have the issue of the 65, well, no, you open the hearing, so you don't have the 65-day issue.
Yeah.
But then you have a time frame on acting with, well, we haven't made the decision yet, you're saying.
Well, no, we issue, we vote on it, the decision gets written. We've always said 14 days to get it out. Where does that come from, that 14-day requirement?
Zoning bylaws.
The town, city's zoning bylaws?
Yep. This is where it tells you the 65 days failure within.
That's to open the hearing, 65 days.
Yeah.
And then, once a decision is made with, okay.
Yeah, see. It keeps, oh, this even tells us it keeps minutes and its decision has to be within 14 days of the hearing and filed with the city clerk.
Of the 14 days of the hearing.
Of the hearing, the
So-
decisions must be filed. That's section 800.4.7.
So the only reason why we have that is because we vote the same night.
Right, and a comment I heard over there was that what we've been doing is Adam's been writing decisions, and just for typos and thought process, they kind of go out to, if all members concur, and
Right, that's not, yeah, that's, I guess, technically not.
right, but I think he makes a point of, at the end, trying to clarify, because he knows he's got to write a decision, and he wants to know the thought process of the various individuals who participated. I know, I've noticed you doing that, because I know you then want to incorporate that into your writing.
Yeah, I'm just wondering.
Are you saying Boston waits till the following?
I shouldn't have said that. Boston's all different for what we do, but it does say the ZBA, if this is from the community thing, has 14 days to file a decision with the clerk. So after.
So the decision has to be made and written in order to be filed.
Yeah. So I guess I spoke too soon. I don't see how we could do that. We'd have to be bi-monthly to do that, which isn't really feasible. So I think how we're doing it is fine.
Okay. What about the language that's in here? Because I thought Emily picked up on, or Catherine, that.
Yeah, just take that sentence out.
Yeah, I think the last sentence probably should be taken out. I mean, if someone wants to raise a complaint
Otherwise, it
about
would be 30 days, not 14.
Yeah.
She's right, they're right.
Okay, she's going to adjust that.
That has to come out. 'cause we
Okay,
only have
that was
14
10.
days by our ordinance. So
Okay. So then I'm going on to 211, filing and recording decisions considered final only when written decision is signed by the chair on behalf of the board and filed with the clerk. We've been doing that, right?
Yeah.
Adam's been signing them as writing the decision, and I've been signing them as the chair. Time limitations for filings are specific to the type of application. I know the comprehensive permits that I hope we never encounter, they've got some rules about when you have to respond to, there's multiple steps involved in that. So I don't know that the language in there is worded in such a way that it's considering those are not time limitations, are specific to the type of application. Yeah, we know it's 14 days, and that's what we do. So that's vague enough language that I think we're covered, whether it's regular hearings or the a 40B type thing. No board decision that grants, no special permit. No board decision that grants a variance or comprehensive permit shall take effect until a copy is recorded with the Middlesex South bearing the certification of the clerk that 20 days has elapsed after the decision. So our applicants are told to go to the city clerk's office after the expiration, and there's a document issued by the city clerk for the petitioner to go over to Cambridge and have it filed, correct?
Correct.
No appeal has been filed. And if appeal has been filed, certification that the appeal has been dismissed or denied. Denials, withdrawals, obligations, and appeals over the decision of the inspector building. Okay, and nothing that the building inspector does gets filed at the registry. It's like his cease and desist and things of that nature. 212, exercise of grants of rights granted by variance. Rights granted by variance must be exercised within 1 year of the date. They can come in for, I believe, one extension, I think, within 1 year of the date the decision granting the variance. If the rights are not exercised within 1 year, the variance shall lapse unless the extension is granted. It has to be requested before the year expires and may be reestablished only after notice and a new public hearing pursuant to these rules. So they have to act within 1 year. They can come in and ask for an extension. One time, next sentence, next paragraph, a one-time extension of rights granted not to exceed 6 months may be granted by the board, provided a written application for the extension is filed with the board prior to the expiration of the 1 year. Okay, 213, reopening a public hearing once a public hearing has been closed, whether or not a vote has been taken. I think I brought this up with someone the other day. Once the hearing is closed, can't have people then jumping back in. Once a public hearing's closed, whether or not a vote has been taken and a decision has been made, the taking of further evidence shall require reopening the public hearing. What constitutes reopening a public hearing, John?
What constitutes, they would have to.
Reopening.
Yeah. Let the people speak. It's like a new meeting.
Is that a decision that can be made the night of the hearing? If I close the hearing, can I reopen it?
This is for
Read the next sentence.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm doing that. Once the public hearing has been closed, whether or not a vote has been taken, decision is made. Taking of further evidence shall require reopening the public hearing, which shall be approved by a majority vote on the board. Okay. If the public hearing is to be reopened at a time other than that meeting at which it was closed, the reopened public hearing shall be advertised and notifies abutters. So that's a little different, that it has to be advertised again. Whereas when we do a
same meeting, yeah.
Yeah, but when we do a continuation, they don't have to advertise again.
No.
Yeah. So everyone okay with 213?
So should we take that out if that's not how we do it?
It is how we do it.
No, it is how we do it.
What he was just talking about is if
The other,
If you close it and then
quickly
reopen.
closes the meeting because he doesn't want to hear the gadfly at the back of the room, and then the guy starts yelling, and we have to reopen. We can reopen it. He can reopen it.
no, a vote to reopen for the board. Yeah. And you know I'd never do that. All right, I'm going to 7. Reconsideration. We learned about that recently with who? When did we do that recently?
That was with Bay Commons.
Oh, there was some folks that were hoping there was going to be reconsideration. No, we had an actual reconsideration, and that's why we were in court a few months ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a new member, and yep, we had that. All right, so the way that works, prior to the filing of the board's written decision, that 14-day thing, and I'm not going to make the comment, I'm going to finish reading. And sitting member may request that the chair call for a vote to reconsider for the purpose of reopening. Further deliberate that the affirmative vote, a majority of the members sitting on a case shall be required to reopen. Further deliberation shall be done only in a duly notified. All right. So I had one 2 years ago, and the member came to me 7 minutes after the hearing closed, right there, because he realized his vote, he made a mistake in his heart and head. I was told that that individual had to be the one requesting reconsideration, and he had to do it in writing to me within like 24 hours. And I, in turn, had to get it off to the attorney for the petitioner. And we called for another hearing. And when that hearing opened, and the 2 buses of people were unloaded in, I had to open by saying to John King, we had to bring us back to, we had to take the meeting back to the vote that was, quote, in question. And, I'm sorry, prior to that, I had to get the board to, majority of the board to vote to reconsider, correct? So we got that taken care of, and then we brought ourselves back to the evening when John made the vote, and we had the motion, and we had the vote, and then we went from there. And then we all ran out of the hall.
Can I ask a question about this? Do we use, is it Robert's Rules of Order?
Yeah, is it going to be stated in here somewhere?
It's in this one that we're going to incorporate.
Because, I mean, it has to be,
No, and the reason I ask it, if I'm not mistaken, if it's a Robert's Rules of Order, in order to make a motion for reconsideration, you have to be on the side that won.
yes, yeah,
Correct?
yes.
Yeah.
Can't be just.
So it can't be, if you voted against in law and you were on the losing end, you can't.
I can't
make a motion.
perpetuate and say, let's
Correct.
do it again.
Yeah, I just don't know if that's something you want to add here.
But you can overrule Robert Rules of Order by that, so, yeah, we might want to change that to say that.
You have to be on the prevailing side to.
Yeah, because you don't want someone who's just.
They just
really,
keep going.
Really upset, really upset about the vote and thinks, the other 4 people are jerks. And, and just go, I want to reconsider. No, it's going to be someone who said yes.
On the prevailing side.
Yeah.
On the prevailing side. Okay.
That just limits the. No, we don't have to beat somebody up.
But the second part of that is Robert's Rules, is that going to be in here? Or is it already?
That's in
This
this other
other
one
one
I've got to incorporate with
That
it.
you're going to incorporate in? Okay. Withdrawal. An applicant can withdraw without prejudice, and the significance of that is that when they don't receive an approval, then they can't come before the board again for over a year, and the facts of the case have to have changed substantially, whatever that definition is. But when something is withdrawn without prejudice, they are able to come back before us like at the next month, So that you'll find happen sometimes when the person over there has a sense that they don't think things are going well. So I guess I should read it. An application withdrawal will be noticed from the applicant. To the city clerk. That's what they're withdrawing the application before they even come before us. I was reading that like they're standing in front of us and they want to withdraw. Okay. So you must run into that. They file an application and then they, for whatever reason, they come in and they say they're going to withdraw. You run into that, right? That we don't even see it to get on our agenda. Okay. So request to withdraw after publication. So if it's been publicly noticed and they want to withdraw, I think they can, but we then have to publicly notice that so that people don't show up and be really upset. After such publication, withdrawal shall require approval. Well, the board doesn't meet. So if it's done administratively before the fact, we don't meet. Right? So this is a little odd because I'm finding this, as I read this, there's circumstances that are different if the folks are in front of us versus if it's early on. Anyone have a comment there? Someone wants to withdraw, again, without prejudice is sort of beneficial to them in case they want to continue and go forward down the road. But it says here, one of the ways they do it is by notifying the city clerk. But that's before they're in front of us in the evening. And then it says that the board members have to approve it. And, we only gather as a body here at the meeting. So if someone wanted to withdraw before the fact, can you reach out to each board member and ask them?
No, it says at a public hearing. So it would have to be, if the notice was published, we'd come here and they would stand up and say, I would like to withdraw. Then we vote.
We run into that. But I'm saying if it's before the meeting, because this talks about them going to the city clerk.
Well, that's only before publication.
Yeah, but it would be the same thing. After publication, we would have to approve the withdrawal here.
After publication, okay.
They have to show up.
If it's been publicly noticed.
This is right from the law, so we can't do anything about this.
Okay.
It's a state law, so it's...
Okay. I just would like to have an understanding of it, though, too. Okay. How about, can we say that on the next one? 216, modification.
I didn't mean to be a jerk.
No. I was the jerk. Request for modification or changes to language, terms, and conditions of previously granted permits, site plans attached thereto shall be heard at public hearing unless the chair, with the approval of the members, determines such changes are de minimis and that a formal public hearing is not required. Such modification changes. Amendment. If it's an amendment, though, it needs to be voted, doesn't it, Adam?
Yeah, I think this is saying, though, if it's so small that we determine that it's not.
But wouldn't it require a vote?
I would think so. I don't know if we could really...
Wouldn't it be wise for us to vote it
I would think so, yeah.
versus me saying they can do it?
But the board, we've got to vote. I mean, unless the chair, with approval of the majority, determines such changes are de minimis. The change in the background.
Yeah, I'm going to always ask for the board to weigh in. I'm not going to make the decision.
So you can delete this one if you want.
I'm sorry?
Want to delete modifications?
Delete it? No.
It seems all our meetings really are public hearings. We don't really do any meetings that aren't. So I don't think there ever would be a situation where we would just have a meeting on our own that wouldn't otherwise be a public meeting. I guess they would have to notice that would be the issue. That if you want to change, you would have to.
Publicly notice.
Yeah, I guess that would be the difference.
Was the last one we had, was that actually public? Or we just...
It was posted.
It was posted?
Yep.
You talking about Jordan Shapiro's? Lower left?
Yeah, just 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks
That
ago.
was posted online, absolutely.
Right, and there had to be language in there that, do you recall the language?
Yes.
It was about the language for the motion,
Yes.
something to that effect, was that?
If you want, we can even call it up if you want.
If it's readily available, yeah.
And we've had changes to, like a Rose Quarry, they come back
Yeah.
with changes to their plans. How many times? I mean, 5, 6 times.
And they're going to be back again. There's more buildings going up.
Yeah. Actually, in our notes.
Oh, it'd be in our minutes, right?
In our minutes.
So like say someone got an approved sign variance and they
Okay.
wanted to change the color and the chair says that's a minor
The reconvening.
change. We don't.
Oh, well, no, where's the notice? You want to-
So we want to, all right, let me see the previous agenda.
They were sued, of course. Could be the other one.
Look at this one. This one does not have a board on it.
Yeah, because I remember calling over to the newspaper and ever to get it posted to meet the deadline.
Let me choose a different start date. Let me choose.
December 31st.
It was posted as we'll publicly meet due to reconvene
All right.
on that. I didn't take that one here. But I should be able to see it from here, but it's not showing me that. Let me search. It's not showing me the previous one.
All right, I'll move on
Yeah, one, yeah.
to 217, retention of evidence. We maintain the public record. We have it. Testimony, the board may at its discretion seek information. We have Nelson Miller usually is someone who participates. We ask the questions of him. Can't think of any other occasion. The petitioners quite often will bring in what they deem their expert for various issues.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Article 3, application to the board, 3-1. Original. Is 8 copies what we're requesting these days? There's 7 people here, and it's always good to have one another one.
Well, what's happening is a lot of times it's now electronic,
So it's not as big a deal.
so it's not a big deal.
Okay. What is a big deal, though, is when we don't have a plot plan by a certified licensed surveyor and instead drawn on a McDonald's napkin.
I might just say,
So,
on this, there's a whole section on what,
because we're getting setback issues that,
right,
you got to have a certified plan for setback issues.
but on here, it's very, very detailed on this other.
It's not.
Rules and procedures.
Page 8, 3.5, right? Certified plot plan?
Well, I feel like we need to have some stronger language to tell the petitioner what they need.
Is that where we're going to incorporate this one?
Okay, so you're jumping over to that other one now.
Right, so we want to go, right,
Do you-
let's get through this one and then there's a
Okay,
thing.
all right. So the way this one is worded, where am I here? All right, so is 8 the number we're going with?
At the moment, yeah.
Okay. Along with 8 copies of eight copies of anything they're producing. Applicants must also submit 2 signed and regardless of general file requirements. What are the signed general filing? That's the document that they're being told what's necessary? Filing requirements?
That was taken from somewhere else.
That's not us, that's
not
Andover or something? Okay, yeah, I don't know what that, that's telling them what we expect them to produce. All right, along with the application. Petitioners should retain their own copies, and it should be collated before submission to the board. Wow. Okay, so the blue, we'll go past the blue for some reason.
Right, well, that's the application deadline. They need more than 3 weeks. If they can't make the papers,
Okay, so that's why,
it's in blue. It's got to be
Right.
changed and different, yeah.
okay, so do we want to give you the language? So we used to have a daily newspaper in the city, so this wasn't as big an issue. And now we don't. And so for people to advertise, there's a couple local papers, but they come out once a week, and then you can't give it to the printer the night before, so we've run into some problems now because we don't have a daily paper. So the language in there today is that Applications must be received in the office no later than 1 o'clock on the Monday of the third week prior to the date of the meeting. What does that mean? So we meet the third week of the month. So you're saying that they need to get everything to you no later than 1 o'clock?
I don't need it like that. I don't even want a 1 o'clock time,
Okay,
especially
so
on a Monday.
By next week, I need to have everything by.
Well, at one point we wanted to put in,
we have people that come in like that after, and they expect us
I'm
to.
just saying that that's basically what that's saying, is that they have to be in here the week after this meeting, basically,
that's too late.
that's 3 weeks.
Right, it's too late to make the local papers before the meeting.
And they have to send the big box.
Right, so they got to go to the Globe and the Herald, which is the daily. Yeah.
We want to keep that in business after all.
So we've added that. In the thing we mail out, it used to just say the Malden Advocate, the Malden Observer. Because of this change, we put in, the Globe and the Herald and their phone numbers, because if they don't catch it properly on time, then they got to go the daily route with the paper, and it's obviously it's more expensive. So,
And if they file with the city clerk first, they don't even have time to get it up to me to make to put the paperwork out. At one point, we thought it might have been advantageous to have it at the first of a month before the next meeting. So say March's meeting, you would have to have it in by February 1st to be really guaranteed to make it to that, to that March meeting with the paperwork. That's a little more extensive on lead time, but somewhere in the middle, a drop deadline doesn't work well with the way the papers are at the moment.
in the local community.
But I mean, what you basically have to do is just tell them if you want to be in, you got to go.
Yeah,
That's it.
to meet the 14 days prior to the hearing.
You can't
Right.
do the local papers anymore.
I mean, we're sensitive to it because it wasn't a big deal, and now it is because of that. But you just threw me off a little. You said if they go to the clerk first, aren't they going to you
Well,
first?
if it's an
Administrative appeal,
it has
they've
to
already
go up.
been to your office because
Right.
Nelson has denied them. So you're aware of it, but they might
Sometimes.
their appeal step is now to the city clerk. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
So you're going to fine tune that language if you think it's warranted,
Right, yeah, can't 3 weeks before, do
Right.
not get them on the list at all.
Okay, filing the application with the city clerk, immediately following the application, the Office of the Board of Appeals will file all applications received.
Just
Okay.
one more thing on
Yep.
that. I mean, if this is going to be real cumbersome for figuring out the dates and stuff, it's not our problem.
No.
I mean, literally.
Oh, we both have spent time on the phone asking a person to put a calendar in front of them, and we'll. No, it's confusing. It is. It's confusing.
Have you advertised? Yes. Bring it up.
Yeah.
Well, sorry.
Yeah.
I
I mean, the gentleman tonight that I asked was before us 2 months ago.
No, we missed it.
He's one of the before us all the time, and he hadn't have it. I mean, he made it sound like there was someone else in his office that didn't do it, but
I mean, we shouldn't try to, jump through hoops on wording and all of this stuff. Just, they have to do it.
right. No, but we just want it correct so that they can't blame us.
Just, they have to advertise.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Within 24 days, and how they do it is up to them.
Okay.
I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. I mean, we can try to assist them, but I don't think, if it's going to take us another 4 hours to, for you to, you're doing it, I mean, to figure out how to write that up. Just, you gotta advertise 24 days before, how you do it.
All right, page 833, the very first thing, I don't know what that means. Immediately following the application deadline, the Office of the Board of Appeals, Kathy, will file all applications received, with the city clerk. Okay, that's good. I can see that now.
Yeah.
Filing with the city clerk starts the clock for the applicable deadline for the board to act. Yep. Applicants who wish to receive a copy of the application bearing the date and time of filing with the clerk must submit a self-stamped. Okay, good. Alternatively, applicants themselves may file the application with the city clerk, which goes around you. Copy of the application bearing the date, times, certified shall be forthwith by the applicant with the order. So is that saying they got to then produce it to you? Okay. All applications must be received by the board prior to the application deadline as set forth above. Set forth above in that debate we just had about the 14 days and all that stuff. Okay. Abutters list. The parcel that is the subject of the app is abutted only by properties within Malden. Have you ran into that, peripheral parcels that we?
Not yet.
Because you have to talk to the other communities.
Not yet.
And again, we got to find out about that. Is 500 going to be the change from what we would do in 300? Where am I here? If the is abutted only by properties in Malden, the Office Board of Appeals will obtain a abutters list. That should probably say from the assessor's office, right? We'll 3-4, the second sentence. Will obtain a certified abutters list from the assessor's office. If the parcel in question abuts another city, the applicant must obtain a certified abutters list from that municipality, from all abutting properties located outside of Malden, from the respective towns. Yep, petition must sign. Okay.
Well, that's the applicant's duty.
On the other towns.
The other towns, yeah.
And produce the document to Kathy. I thought that was our role and function.
Well, we always.
Oh, I'm
we do.
glad what he said. Certified plot plan. This is the one that I have a real problem with because there's been many times that people are in front of us and it calls for a plan and they're not official looking, they're hand drawn. So, certified plot plan. But I understand it's not always necessary. We want to be sensitive and conscientious of cost involved to these people. So, doesn't your office, when they get an app, make a determination what type of documentation you need, right?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So they should have the same thought process as us as to what warrants good info for us to work with. All applicants must include a certified plot prepared by 8 copies. Plot plans be drawn at the scale, okay? The ownership of the parcel, the location of existing buildings, all abutting streets, the fronts. I don't think I've ever seen one that has all this. The location of wetlands, any other physical. Okay. Plot plan shall be submitted on sheets no larger than 11 by 17. If larger, original sheets are submitted. Okay. I don't know. You have to get that specific.
Well, I didn't want to Roger that. A photocopy only takes 11 by 17 max.
Right. So.
But hopefully we're getting them.
Yeah. No, the bigger the better. They're
electronic.
easier to read. You know. But it's this one. It's coming from.
It's coming from North Andover.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
I think that's so the size is just, it's easily.
Well, she was just saying what she has to deal with her equipment there. And
Yeah.
11 by 17 is about the max.
it's the max.
And is it prone to jamming?
Not when I-
No, not when you do it?
No,
Okay. All right, so 3.5, okay?
I think it usually comes with a date, but I feel like that's helpful, or like,
Was it his stamp, her stamp have a date? No, not necessarily?
no, not in the stamp.
That just has their license number and,
Yeah, we've just run into, like, if you have to reference that actual sheet, like having a date or something that indicates that's the actual document.
so we should refer to this as a dated certified plan in some manner.
Most stamps, professionals will stamp and date it, but sometimes they've been in front of us
They
without
don't.
a date. Or they don't update the date, and it's like 3 different versions with the same date.
So the plan should include and reflect an as-of date or a...
We did run into that with plans for like Monmouth at one point for the planning board.
Of where?
Monmouth Street for planning board.
Oh, yes, that's right, because he changed the plan and, yeah. We ran into a problem with something, yeah. And there was a zoning change, and you needed 14,000, and he had 12 on the original plan, or something like that. that ended up in court. Okay, so we're all good with 3.5. We're going to add date. Sure.
So, with respect to what you mentioned about every application needs a certified plot plan, it's the discretion of the building department, is that correct?
I don't know that it's a discretion, but we rely on them to determine what they feel is necessary.
Right.
And especially if it's going to leave their office and come to us.
Right.
Then we would hope that they would make a determination versus a blanket policy of telling everyone they had to get everything. It's money, so you don't want to
Right,
put a
of course.
burden on someone. So we're trying to balance that.
No, but that's what I mean. So here it says all applications.
Right.
So does that have to be modified, that language?
Oh, but there's plenty of instances when it's not new construction that we certainly still, especially the setback issue.
So, I mean, should this be changed to something like all applications that are determined to require a certified plot plan?
Yeah, there should be something in there like that that there's an out. But I'd rather if there is a blanket and then maybe have an out if at the judgment of, say, Nelson, that, you know, they don't really need to go to the cost of having it for this particular circumstance. Like they didn't need a plot plan tonight for what we did, right?
Yeah, for the sign.
Yeah. So I mean, I like what David said that, you know, but I'd rather a blanket, not necessarily saying all, but
Yeah, you could say something like it's not required for the permitting process or.
judgment to be made by Nelson or down there. I mean, do you think if they know they're going to deny something, do you think they handle the application differently to a degree? If they know it's going to go on to another body?
They always go to.
They should do the same thing all the time.
It's a plot plan.
Yeah.
They get, most of the time it's done through the engineering plot plan. And then if you really need to be more specific, then you get a really big building, then you get a certified.
Right, but who makes that determination about the specificity? Yeah, okay. So we rely on them to give us the best information that's going to be needed.
Right,
So-
but I mean, for like you were mentioning, I mean, if you have a single-family residence that wants to get a 1-inch variance on their porch, we don't need to have them pay hundreds of even thousands of dollars to get plot plans, right?
Well, it wouldn't be a 1-inch variance. It would be a variance for 1 inch. Sort of now starts to imply setbacks where that's when it's like most important, I think, when it's a setback issue.
Okay.
Even if it's just an inch, because
Right.
that's all about who measured what and saying
Okay.
that it's there and not there, and you know. So
I mean, so you know,
because John made that point that hey, with setbacks, maybe we should just say absolutely when it's a setback issue.
Why don't we say everything except an admin appeal or a sign variance? 'Cause that seems like that would cover pretty much everything.
And that still gives discretion to Nelson to, in a particular instance, not require it of the applicant.
Well, I don't know if Nelson can't really, we can't really have Nelson tell the people what to do before our board. You know what I mean? I don't think it's proper for him to.
Yeah, but was that reference about general requirements? We just went past that on the earlier page.
In order for him to make his decision, he would need to have the proper documents, which he would have to forward to us anyway. Do you know what I mean? In order for him to say this is denied, he basically would have the proper documents before him.
Right.
When someone that lived in that building came in front of us saying that they were, grandfathered into 6 units and they were hoping to get 7, they would need a plot plan because they're not changing the footprint or modifying the structure. So in that case, like, the building inspector would pass it on without that requirement, so I don't know how you.
Right. I mean, I'm all for knowing that we have a responsible individual in her department to make the judgment as to whether it's needed for him to make his decision, and then especially if it's going to be denied and it's going to go up the flagpole to us, if because he can make that judgment. But I know I have got him in the past when the stuff hasn't been there that really should be.
Well, going down later when it says a failure to submit a plot plan, this is 3.6, is that we can also continue it and have them come back with a plot plan. So I think
They
that's
cover
kind of
this.
way out.
Right, except that we just load up our agenda and they're back again, and we'd like to have them here one night and be done with it,
Yeah, I know.
All right, so then maybe that,
We can just say when relevant. It's almost always relevant. Well, it's more relevant than not relevant.
failure, all right, 3.6, failure to submit. If a certified part is not submitted, should it say if it's if it's requested and not submitted with the application at the time of the opening of the public hearing? Oh, this is our rules, not the building inspectors. Yeah, okay. The board at discretion may either continue. Well, we're gonna let them continue to the next month, more than likely. All right, 3.7. I imagine it's the same thing about drawings. If it's the sign, we don't need drawings about the bedrooms. It's architectural drawings are needed. They're needed. If it's an interior item, right?
Well, this is specifically for changes and additions to existing really sign.
Right. Well, I'm saying that's when it's certainly necessary, when it involves that type of work. So again, it's like a discretion item for.
You could just change the title like drawings required for a permit. So you're not saying right, if someone goes to get a permit, they're denied, it comes to us. So they wouldn't be denied if they're missing drawings, they would ask for those drawings, but there's errors based on our zone, and then
Yeah, but they could be denied because it's not an allowable use, and they may want to come to us for an administrative appeal then.
so if they went to do that, they wouldn't necessarily need drawings necessarily to, it's like, whatever would be required for a permit, I would assume that they would give what we asked for to the building inspector.
Yeah, we're going back and forth on the building inspector and the Board of Appeals. So, yeah.
If anything that's going to help our case, they'll give in addition to what would have been required in the permit. So I don't think we can require them to give us.
All right, so why don't we just leave the language that's in there for the moment anyways? 3.7? All right, I'm going to move on then to,
It's a tough way, to try to, be sensitive and then have what you need.
Right.
In most cases. I mean, that's tough.
and if we had blanket and strong language that you got to do everything, go to Library of Congress before you come to us, and they come before us and they don't have something that we deem is not really needed for the issue we're voting on, then I as one member wouldn't be holding things up that they didn't do X when X isn't needed, So.
But again, we can't make a decision
Until we knew that when they were in front of us.
if it's in our regulations and we can't vote on it if it's not there, if they haven't, unless we write in.
An escape clause,
You got to write in.
some escape clauses.
Yeah.
Anyone?
These requirements can be waived at the discretion of the board. So we say the requirements, but then also say we can waive the requirements if we want.
Yeah, that would pertain to the one we were just addressing a minute ago there. A final sentence, something to that effect. Board retains the right to utilize discretion in the requirements of the filing requirements.
As I say, I think it kind of says that now, right?
Does it?
It says that the board may. we have discretion to deny it.
Where are you, Adam?
36,
Greece, yeah.
on page 8.
Yep.
But this doesn't say we have the discretion to approve.
The board is at discretion, may either.
I think maybe that does do it. I mean, because it says you gotta bring these.
But if you don't,
But if you don't, you might say, okay.
that's okay, because in this instance, they weren't really relevant.
Yeah, it's just a little,
So does the language that's in there give us that,
yeah.
I think so.
and it puts the onus on them that they should be bringing,
Well, it's their call, right? If they
Yeah.
come in and they want to take a chance that we might need it,
Yeah.
it's their call. We make a design.
Yeah, and at that point, we can rely on, you know, saying we're relying on the building department to say, you know, geez, guys, you're gonna need a lot more.
I think in all practicality, if it really came down to just not having a clock, I think all of us would agree, let them come back.
well, you might want to take a look at 3.9. I didn't want to jump around, but
Maybe not.
Perfect.
applications that are not accompanied by plans as required in paragraphs 5 and 6 above may be denied. So,
Or maybe approved.
all right, we should have read 9 first. All right, and now I'm going to go back to 8. Electronic. In addition to the required, the applicants must, this is a first, submit these materials in electronic form. Huh.
Now we added
So
to,
now we got to buy computers and give them to people?
You filed it. There you go.
Okay.
we,
Where are we with this?
with this,
We're doing it. I
we
mean,
are doing it.
for
If
you
someone-
people that have been here for a while, if you remember what you used to get, hand copies at 6:20, but with Kathy, we get these things now early and often and electronic.
And, if someone comes in with a small enough, a homeowner, most of the time, sorry. Did you put me on?
I did.
You didn't.
No, I shut you off. You're on.
If a homeowner does come in or someone with, and does not have the ability to do it electronically, like us, if we have the ability, we will scan and make it electronic.
So you're talking about a
Yeah.
small homeowner for a deck and not a
Exactly.
developer who's doing,
Right.
So, I mean, they can still go to, almost any, go to Staples, go to, say, here, I got these plans, can you just copy them onto a,
Yeah.
flash?
but what I think I heard, if it's small in scope, you would probably go out of your way to be the person that you
Which we
are.
do.
We're fair with everybody, even though the big people know.
You may have a 14-day deadline you're working with, but. All right.
But I mean, this, that same sort of kind of work.
Oh, I know.
Scanning it all and stuff.
Okay. Application fee. You sure can.
On 3.9, incomplete applications, shouldn't that be 3.5 and 3.7?
That it references back 3.5 and 3.5 was the plot plan.
It says applications are not accompanied by plans as required in paragraphs 3.5. 3.6 doesn't require plot.
No,
plans,
3.6 is a
right? 3.7.
expanding commentary on 3.5.
So shouldn't
It's
3.6
3.7.
be 3.7?
3.7 is the drawing issue. Yeah, I think you're right, Bill. 3.5 and 3.7. Okay, this is the next one's about the money, Bill. So we're hoping you're really going to be fine-tuned reading on in 3.8.
Well, the electronics.
Yeah. So we're at 3.8. On the application, non-refundable fee payable to the city shall be submitted at the time of the application to cover the cost of processing, legal, and abutter notification. So how do we charge? What is the fee? What's it based on? That's right, there's listed there, okay. But in terms of, again, we're reading another community. In terms of legal, that's cost is borne by the applicant, and it's between them and the newspaper. We're not in that, all right? What about a notification? The assessors has graciously been doing it, right? So,
And then it gets certified.
by the assessors.
To the city clerk it goes.
Yeah. So cost of processing is in fact what goes on, but the legal advertiser is what needs, I think, to be taken out, because that's, although should it be mentioned there that it's on the petitioner to take care of the legal advertising, although that's addressed somewhere else, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what they
Yeah.
do. I mean, you could stop that.
Because there are some communities that do it. And part of the reason for that difference of handling, Michelle Romero has pointed out to me that sometimes the applicant will write the notice and they don't write it correctly. And now it gets published and you can't have the hearing because it wasn't publicly correctly noticed. And so there's a whole issue there. But what we do is, once we have a grasp of what the issue is, we write the issue. We write the ad and give it to the petitioner, and we say, go to the newspaper now and advertise. So that gives us the ability to make sure that we think the ad is written properly as to what we're going to tell the public about the hearing. I was told you don't want to be vague, but you don't want to be so specific and pigeonhole you. So there's a little crafting, and she's been doing it the last couple months, and it does a good job. Okay, although we couldn't find the one to show that you wrote 2 weeks ago. Where does that bring us to? Legal notice? Oh, on the fee, we have a list somewhere that tells us what the fees are, right? Okay, Nelson, Maria Louise, and myself updated that a year ago, and we brought the fees up because they were 1970 versions. Legal notice, the hearings are advertised in newspaper in the city of Malden or elsewhere. Should I read on? So, because that's general circulation in the city of Malden. Okay, as set forth in 2:1 above. No advertisements will be scheduled for publication unless the Office of the Board of Appeals is in receipt of the application fee, and the request. Well, what we do is when we receive the application, the fee and required documents, we then, what I just mentioned a minute ago, we write the notice. And she gives it to the petitioner and says, have at it. Go buy an ad somewhere.
So maybe it should say no advertisements will be prepared for publication instead of scheduled. Or legal notice, or be drafted for publication. Because this is saying scheduled, it kind of sounds like.
Right, but we do draft them.
Yeah, so I would say no advertisements will be drafted for publication unless it's in receipt of such and such.
Okay. You good? Okay, the consent of the owner for any application filed by any person other than the owner of the property is recorded at the registry. A letter of consent signed by the property owner shall be submitted at the time of the application. The property owner must also sign the application. I didn't confirm that our applicant tonight was the owner of the real estate. It was an LLC. So we had one a couple years ago, Combined Properties, which is a big landlord in the city, and one of their tenants, a reputable national chain, was trying to do something, and it went on for 3 months, and the tenant and the landlord weren't talking, and we said, we're not here to handle your tenant-landlord issue, but we ended up not hearing that case. It was a sign that the tenant wanted to do, and the tenant and landlord were fighting. But this is saying that you got to have the approval of the property owner, the landlord, a consent. All right, so Adam, you think the language is good there? Okay. All right, 313, adopted by a vote. 20? adopted by vote of the zoning board on 2020. Oh, but we can change the next page to John King. All right, now I'm confused. What we just looked at was what John came up with from another community?
Yes, and with some, editing.
Okay, and
Now, these were the ones that we originally had in place.
okay, this other one that's a little easier, it's only 3 pages. This is Malden's version that we've manipulated from 1960, 70, 80, 90, right? All right. So, probably should have started with this one. Huh?
Can we table this for next time?
Does it make sense to incorporate what's necessary and then review the whole thing?
All right, so we painstakingly went through that one, but you're going to work off of this document, aren't you? I should have started with this one. Huh? You know, it is my birthday.
It is? Happy birthday. Why on earth would you want to spend your birthday doing?
Well, my wife said the same thing, and I said, I don't have any say in the matter.
We gladly would have done this next.
But I gave everyone off because it's Martin Luther Day, the 15th. So, all right. So we may not meet next month. So Kathy's the one shouldering the burden here. So how do you feel?
So then I can incorporate.
I mean, is there some sections you'd like to touch on?
Well, obviously, we follow Robert's rules
Yeah.
and the procedure.
I'm sorry?
Does it, she's just quickly scanning the other set. You have them there, Adam?
Yeah.
So that first thing on procedures, should that be boned up, the language, that we follow Robert's rules? We need to say Prince Harry signs off on them or something?
We don't really follow Robert's rules, so, I mean,
When's the fall back? I mean, if we really get this jam, that's why it's usually in there. Hardly anybody follows.
yeah, I mean,
Well, we'd have to take another evening to learn Robert's rules if we're going to say we're going to follow them, right?
I mean, if someone wanted to be a real jerk and say, well, you didn't follow Robert's rules, this whole meeting is a sham. Because we're not.
So with that,
And I hate Robert's rules of order, so that's.
so do you think we should eliminate it then?
I'm throwing it out there. I don't have a strong opinion either way, but.
Seeing a lot of head shaking. All right, get rid of them. All right, what else concerns you, interests you?
Most of it's the same. It's just, let's,
How about on 5, PIPs and the as-is plan? That's all, that goes to that section 5 and 7 that we just did about
exactly.
plans.
Most of them will get it.
That's section 5?
Right, you can
Right. We go together.
incorporate
We'll merge them.
4 weeks.
We retain the records.
How about 9? About a building there's different rules if the building has more than 10,000 square feet or if it's certain uses. Is that a planning board thing?
That's usually a planning.
That's a use. That's use. I don't. Traffic study. Yeah,
I think that should be discretionary, because I can see someone coming in for a project that size, that, it's not, we don't necessarily need a traffic study. I would hate to make someone go through all that.
right.
Just for it.
I think it's saying here that we can request other information if necessary.
Yeah, so I would strike that, and we could just simply request it.
Section 9.
The planning board is the one that.
Yeah, that's planning board related because they're proposing developments and. All right. Okay.
So we're striking the whole chapter,
Section
the whole
9.
section 9, right? Okay, right.
Wow, 10 and 9.
This is private under the over here. As is, I think, yeah. So most of this is already covered.
So if anyone, spends this weekend rereading them, besides myself, fire some comments off to Kathy, maybe? No, my daughter's making a blueberry pie. She asked me what I wanted, so. So maybe you can filter and propose, and then maybe we'll try to vote next time. And if we don't meet, we don't meet. We would put it off to March. All right? And motion to adjourn, I guess. Okay, thank you. Let me just shut everything off here. Okay. Wow.